Shouting Men podcast. It's the Shouting Men podcast. It's the Shouting Men podcast. It's the Shouting Men podcast. Reviews, previews, stories old and new. A podcast about the jewels, just for you. Dedicated to the past, present, and future too. It's the Shouting Men podcast. Go grab a brew. It's the Shouting Men podcast. It's the Shouting Men podcast. It's the Shouting Men podcast. It's the Shouting Men podcast.
And welcome to the first edition of Echoes of Priestfield from the Shouting Men podcast. Unfortunately, Kirrien cannot join me today, but I'm delighted to have Eddie joining me along for this journey. Eddie, how are you today?
Oh, yeah, not too bad. Looking forward to Dover on Tuesday. It all starts again, doesn't it?
All starts again, yes. Are you going?
I'm planning to, yeah.
What we're saying, of course you're going.
Yeah. I mean, unless it clashes with a big Kent game, I'll be at a friendly.
Well, let's get on. Let's just explain what Echoes of Priestfield is about. So it's a nostalgic series featuring former players, managers and club legends sharing their most memorable moments and stories from their time at Gillingham FC. And today, myself and Eddie, we're excited to introduce a guest whose career has left a lasting impact on both England football management and Gillingham FC. Peter Taylor. Born on January the 3rd, 1953, Peter's journey is marked by significant milestones from his playing days with Crystal Palace and his impressive managerial achievements. Most notably, Peter returned to the club management with Gillingham at the start of the 1999-2000 season, and under his guidance, Gillingham overcame Wigan Athletic in the Division 2 playoff final, earning promotion to the second tier for the first time in our history. During that remarkable season, he also led Gillingham to the FA Cup quarter-finals, defeating top-tier teams like Bradford City, Sheffield Wednesday in memories. Beyond his club success, Peter's connection with England's national team is equally impactful. He served as head coach for the England under-21 team twice, and a brief period in November 2000 as caretaker manager for the senior England team, where he did make a historic move, and it's going to be one of the questions I've got to ask him, by giving David Beckham the captain's arm and representing England on the international stage makes his story truly inspiring. Today, we're going to delve into his remarkable memories with the Gillingham Football Club and his experience at managing the England national team and the lessons he's learned along the way. So with Peter Taylor. So, Peter, we're going to dive straight in. I've got to ask this big question. And it's a really simple one. Why David Beckham?
Well, to be honest with you, there was only three contenders that day. That was Gary Neville, Gareth Southgate, and David. In the end, I went for David because I felt as though what people didn't see behind the scenes is that his commitment to the country, and he never not turn up for training, not turn up for matches. He was always there, where maybe some older players didn't always get to every game, but David did. And after he got sent off against Argentina in '98, I think he got absolutely hammered by everybody, unless you was a Man United fan. And the way that he handled it was outstanding, and he played brilliantly. And I just felt as though he deserved it. I knew I was only going to be looking after the team for one game, so to me it was the right thing to do. And I was delighted that I did give David the captaincy. He took it very seriously, very committed, and he improved as a captain, and he carried on playing well and being a good captain. So in the end, it worked out to be a good choice. We know as managers you don't always get them right, but in that situation, it worked out to be a successful captaincy.
It did. Eddie, I'm sure you went and saw him a few times. David Beckham was captain. Did you go? Were you there at that game in November 2000?
No, because that was an away game. But obviously, I saw Beckham play multiple times for England. Probably the one that people will remember most was the game against Greece in the qualifier at Old Trafford, and he scored the free kick in the last minute. And we were awful that day. England were terrible that day, and Greece played us off the park. And if it hadn't been for Beckham, we would have lost that game and not qualified automatically. So he absolutely carried us on that day. So that's my favourite moment of watching him. But I agree with Peter. He got really unfairly treated by certain people in the media and some England fans after the red card and everything. And I felt just that he became, because he was so famous, I think people thought it was just open season on him. And I don't think that helped at all. But that's just unfortunate mega fame for you. People are going to be hypercritical of you.
Well, the nice thing about David is that he overcome that.
Yeah, I mean, I remember
looking at that game. I was the same. Watching that game. I was at home watching that game against Greece, and I agree with you. We weren't so good that day. And I think the free kick that when David scored was about the third free kick he had, and you knew the amount of times I saw him practice. You knew that if he had 3 goes, he was definitely going to get 1 goal, and that's what he did. And that's again was him being committed to his job.
What a time to do it! What an absolute time to. Yeah. Peter, I've got a question. Then I did want to ask about England, especially. So that November game in 2000, you fully 100% knew you were going into it. Not going to, the one game only. Did you not have any aspirations for wanting to take on the job maybe full time, or was it just 100%? No, this is just the one game and then I'm done.
Oh, it definitely wasn't. It definitely wasn't me not wanting to do it. If somebody had said to me, "You're going to take the job on," I'd have done it. It's just that I knew at the time they'd made up their mind they were going to bring Sven in. And quite rightly so. He's a very, very, top manager, and he'd have been a very popular choice at that time. But they needed somebody just to do it for one game, and I was very, very happy and proud to do that.
I mean, Eddie, anything you want to ask Peter regarding the England national team?
Not particularly, but I would like to say I first saw him play when he was at Tottenham in 1978. Second football match I ever saw him. So, followed his career all the way through, and been an amazing mixture of non-league football, like playing for Manchester United, all the way through to managing the England under-21s, managing England once, managing in the Premier League with Leicester and Palace, and obviously taking Gillingham to the greatest moment in their entire history, which anyone who was ever there will never forget. I mean, so it's an incredible story, full stop. From the days of playing for Crystal Palace, getting to the semi-final, and getting England caps when he wasn't playing in the top division. So amazing.
Well, 100% is, but obviously part of that.
I've been fortunate. I know it's took some hard work, but I've been fortunate to have a very good career, and high levels, low levels, non-league, as you say, but lots of brilliant memories and lots of things I've been very, very pleased with. Delighted that got 5 promotions at different clubs. So the Gillingham one against Wigan was fantastic. That was really my first promotion, and to win it at Wembley. In front of all our supporters, because we had 10 times more supporters that day than Wigan did, and the way that we done it, we came from behind. It was a year before where we lost to Man City, so the pressure was on the boys. But the boys showed what an incredible changing room they were, and they were as solid as, and they carried on being honest and together, and that's why they were a joy to work with.
So my first question really to Peter would be,
Peter,
how was it becoming sort of taking over a side that was very good? Tony Pulis left. We'd lost the final to Man City. How was it walking into a very tight-knit group of players who must have been, in one sense, devastated to have lost the playoff final on penalties, but on the other hand, they were going to be very handy again in the third tier, and so there was pressure for you to get us promoted, even though no one else had ever managed that before in Gillingham's history, to the Championship, as you call it now.
Yeah, no, I did understand, there was going to be pressure, but at that particular time, I was very confident that I would walk into the changing room and get on well with the players. I wasn't thinking they're going to not like me and I'm not going to like them. I knew it was a strong changing room. I knew I was taking over from a very good manager, and when you take over from somebody like Tony Pulis, you don't go changing loads of things because you don't need to, because he'll have everything in place. And so all of those things I was ready for. The first 5 matches weren't too good. We never got a result for the first 5 matches, but eventually then that's when we started picking up, and Bob Taylor started scoring every week, so it was handy. But no, they were a very, very good bunch, and I think they enjoyed working with the training sessions that we gave them, and I think they were just looking to get on with it. And I think everybody knows that there's a lot of teams that lose in the playoff final the following year have a very poor season, so that's where the pressure was on. But thankfully for us, it worked out to be a magnificent season.
After a slow start, I must say people were like really sad that Pulis had gone, and was disquiet a little bit, and a slow start. But I think the moment you won the Gillingham fans over, and suddenly went, no, we're backing you now, was Blackpool away. Well, Nigel Worthington, there's a bit of an incident when they, we put the ball out, they threw it to themselves, ran off and scored whilst we were expecting the ball back. And let's just say your passion on the sideline, should we say, went, no, he is one of us, and he's got our backs. And suddenly that, Gills fans went, right, he's our manager now. And that sort of set it sort of changed the mood. I know it was only a 1-1 draw, but we were so indignant at Blackpool cheating, basically, that that sort of just suddenly won people over.
People have told me that, and fine. And honestly, if those fans would have known what I am like, that is me. That is, I want to win the match. I desperately want to win any match or anything that that I enter. And in that situation, we done the right thing. Vince Bartram kicked the ball out. I think they had 2 players injured at that particular time. We kicked the ball out politely, and then all of a sudden Nigel says to the fullback, "Don't give it to him. Give the ball to us," and they crossed it and they scored. And it was a disgrace, really. And even the referee and the officials, they can't wait to send me off because I'm showing a bit of honest passion. It's incredible that they don't take football things into account, and maybe they should learn from things like that. But no, it was wrong what Nigel done that day. I think he is embarrassed about it now, and we move on. But it's not anything that I would do. That is a cert. But no, people said to me that that the fans loved you for that. That wasn't me doing it for the fans. That was me as I am. I didn't like what had happened.
I've got another question for you about Super Bob Taylor. He obviously in that autumn he went on the maddest run I've ever seen a Gillingham player in my life. He scored a goal a game virtually, and most of them were worldies. Yeah. And he scored almost perfect hat-trick. Bristol City came back, I think, with Tony Pulis, who won 3-0. But he's like a left foot, right foot header, and free kicks going in the top corner from 30 yards, and just audacious stuff, not just the goals. How did you feel about the fact that, we're flying, he's banging in these goals, and then obviously he gets sold to Manchester City of all teams. So, A, we lose him. B, you've got to try and replace him, and see. I mean, you weren't going to replace him in like for like because that was the most remarkable 3 months, 4 months I've ever seen from a Gillingham player. But how did you go about thinking about dealing with that situation?
Well, I think for me, thankfully, it wasn't a complete shock that you're going to lose your best player, because Bob was linked and we all knew it was going to happen. The only thing probably we weren't sure is how much it was going to go for. He was going to go for. So in the end, I knew there's a fair chance I was going to lose him. He was as good as gold. He carried on, and the goals, as you quite rightly said, some of his goals were absolutely outstanding. And all he was probably doing was putting his price up, because of that. And so we knew we was going to lose him. In the end, as a manager, and there's teams around now that are very organised, that all of a sudden they know if they lose the player, they've got a list of players in that position that they want to go for. So in the end, we knew that we had Carlos Arbor in the building, so that was really, really important to us. And Bobby, we could have done with staying. That is I don't think we'd have needed to go through playoffs if Bobby would have remained with us. But in the end, we then went for Iffy, and who came back and done a magnificent job for us. So it meant that we maybe weren't going to win 3 or 4 nils because we didn't have the outstanding goal scorer, but there's still a fair chance with a little bit of luck we're still going to win 1-0, and because of the players that we had. And so I was quite pleased, and I knew about Andy Thompson. I knew Andy would come in and get a goal every now and again, and so we still had enough stuff to go and get us 3 points.
I was just going to say about you tinkered with the style slightly, though, eventually, with bringing in like Junior Lewis and Ty Gooden.
Yeah.
And so I thought that the Gillingham side that you had was slightly more measured with the ball under pressure than the Pulis side. You were a little bit calmer in sticky situations. And I think that the game that most epitomised that was when we went to Burnley on the Tuesday night and won 3-0 and played them off the park in front of 17,000 Burnley fans. That's in my top 3 away Gillingham performances that I have ever seen. And, it was like a lion's den, and we went in there and we were calm and we just picked them off, and 3-0 could have been more. And there must have been... you must have felt brilliant when we played like that.
Yeah, no, I agree with you also about the Burnley game, and I think from memory we might have only played with 1 striker that day, but we really did pass the ball well. And there's one thing about people give me lots of criticism that I've took Junior Lewis everywhere with me, but honestly, Junior made Tony Pulis, brilliant manager. I love him to bits. He's a good friend. But if anything, we played a little bit more football than what Tony was doing. And that's where Junior came in, because Junior was so brave on the ball. He didn't mind losing the ball. It wouldn't affect him to go and try and get the ball again, where other people would hide and not touch it. But he always wanted the ball from defenders. So if I was one of our defenders, I'd love Junior Lewis in the team because he was always available. He was always an option. And even going to the final against Wigan, for me to have to, I left out Paul Smith, which was one of the hardest decisions I've ever had to make because of what a great lad and great captain he is and was. But that was just because I wanted to play more football, and Hesse, Ty Gooden and Junior in the middle of the park, I felt as though would give us a bit more football. And that was always what I was trying to achieve.
Yeah, perfect. I wanted to mention to you, Peter, obviously you mentioned him earlier. I think you once said he was the best £25,000 you've ever spent on a footballer. And it's Thompson. Obviously, we always celebrate Tomo Day. But on that day, during the final, it's gone into extra time. They're down to 10 men. You throw Tomo on. Are you throwing him on knowing that he's going to go on and get you a goal? Because there's something. It was always something about him. Whenever he came on, he had something in him that he was always going to score.
Yeah, no, he's a very, very clever forward, and he's always a goal scorer, and he can score with his feet, and he can score with his head. He can score with really, really good movement. That's what he's very, very good at. What people didn't realise, he was struggling to make the bench on that day. He wasn't 100% fit, and it was a risk, knowing that, you know, he couldn't have started the match. Definitely not. We weren't sure how long, because I think it was an ankle. I think it was an ankle injury that he had. But so we knew he wasn't right, but we knew he could be a handy substitute. And having him and having Steve Butler on the bench as well, you know, when you've got goals like that, and then thankfully for us, Wigan are down to 10 men, and we are playing very well. We changed to a 4-3-3. We're getting loads of ball from the left-hand side. So as far as I'm concerned, we're going to get tireder and tireder every second of the game. And so to me, to be able to bring on two strikers like that against a team that's looking tired and down to 10 men, you've got every chance that you're going to get on the end of some certain crosses. And that's exactly what happened. We were crossing from fullback areas, from wing areas, and that's where we, I think, deserved to win the match, you know. And you know, again, it was against 10 men, but Wigan lost a little bit of this. Their left back lost a bit of discipline, so it was nice that it's 11 against 10.
It'd be great to ask you about the FA Cup run, because there was the greatest run in our history as well. So I think there's a bit of an overlap with the sound.
Yeah,
but when we drew at Cheltenham, did you envisage we don't get to play Chelsea in the 6th round of the FA Cup?
Probably not. No, probably not. I think that as a manager, I don't think I've had brilliant cup runs. So when we, you know, I remember because Steve Cotterill, I think, was manager at Cheltenham at that time, and we brought them back to our place to win, which was good. And then we had the fantastic run, you know, to play Bradford at home, Sheffield Wednesday at home. They were good home ties for us because Priestfield was getting improved, so it was porter cabins, and some of their players were maybe just used to the beautiful Premier League, and they didn't like a bit of the grassroots stuff, and quite like that. And so we were terrific again in those games, and to have the opportunity of playing Chelsea. The only thing is, I think I did predict that we would lose 5-0, and I was right. And so it's about the only time I weren't over impressed that I was right. But it was a great experience for our players because, you know, to play against your Zolas, and I think Viali was the manager at that time. It was a good day out for the boys, and a good day out for our supporters as well. And you know, they never would like losing, I know that, but I think they did enjoy the day.
But the round earlier, also at home to Sheffield Wednesday, that was like the main game on Match of the Day, and obviously 3 goals in the second half, and Nicky Southall's famous goal that swung in from
unbelievable
about 100 yards out.
Yeah.
That's again one of the great defining moments of our history, all happening in the same season. I mean, what were your thoughts then? Because Sheffield Wednesday were a handy team then in the top division, and we absolutely deserved that win. It's in the second half we just took them apart. I mean, were you thinking, well, that was amazing, or were you thinking, no, I think we are going to beat Sheffield Wednesday? What was your vibe beforehand?
I was always confident that I wasn't confident we'd go and beat Chelsea away. If we'd have even played Chelsea at home, I'd have been 10 times more confident, because I just think the boys at Priestfield, it's a tiny little ground at times, and certain teams don't like it. So I was very, very confident we could cause an upset with Bradford and Sheffield Wednesday. Very, very confident. And I've been back recently and seen some of the videos of the season. My God, we did have to play some good football, you know, some really, really good football. And people talk about counter-attacking and all that as if it's happening now. Well, we were doing counter-attacking 20 odd years ago. You know, it's not, and the boys, to me, every time they worked very hard as a group to win the ball back. And the minute they won the ball back, they were confident that they could hurt the team they were playing against. So it meant that we were a strong and powerful outfit, and we had people that could score a goal, and even people like John Hodge, who used to come on at times and all that. He could just beat. He was an outstanding winger. Maybe might only be for 25 minutes at times, but he was also, he was a very dangerous opponent. And we had that's where Tony Pulis deserves the majority of the credit for the squad that he got together. I think I deserve a little bit of credit for changing a few slight things, but the group of players had different areas where we had strong bits of different areas to help the team be a good team.
I mean, look, I think the one thing that might have cost us automatic was obviously Asaba wasn't there for the whole season, but when he came back and he scored those goals at Preston, I mean, you must have started to think the automatic's possible. And so obviously we powered towards the end of the season. And then obviously we have to go to Wrexham and Burnley are at Scunthorpe. And I don't know, I still have nightmares about that game. We hit them with everything we had. They had one shot, goes in from 20 yards, and we just battered them. We missed a few chances, but also their goalie had the game of his life. And we had 5,300 Gills fans had gone up to Wrexham for that. And, we all hoped it would be the perfect day. And then we not only did we lose, but then Burnley won 2-1 with quite a late goal, I think, at Scunthorpe. And so we're suddenly plunged back into the playoffs. How did you deal with that at the end of that game? I'll ask about Stoke in a minute, but how did you deal with what was the feeling at the end of that?
Well, I think, as you say there, we played exceptionally well against Wrexham. Again, it's one of those, as a manager, if I felt as though half the team had bottled it and we weren't anywhere near it, then you'd be nervous, then you'd be very, very worried. But I know we played really well against Wrexham and deserved to win the match. It didn't happen, but I think because of that is the reason why my head wasn't down at all, in the respect of, right, I don't care who we play, we can go and beat them, So as much as we were frustrated that we didn't get automatic promotion and we've now got to go the playoff route again, playing some tough matches, I still felt as though the group of players that we had in our changing room were better than the others, and that's where I was always confident. And I told the players that day, the first time I got them together after Wrexham, I said to them, and I think Ife Honora always says it, that the manager told us we're going to do it straight away, and I did. I remembered saying that to them, and I'm sure that's because the way that we played against Wrexham, because they gave me enough belief that we're such a good team, we're going to do it.
I remember at the end of the Wrexham game, the Gillingham fans start singing, "We're going to Wembley," to try and raise the team. And I thought, yeah, I think we're still in this. And then obviously we get to Stoke. Our train was delayed. We had to taxi from Derby. We made kick-off by about 30 seconds because the trains were all screwed. And 28 seconds in, 1-0 to Stoke. The loudest I've ever heard opposition fans against the Gills. 8 minutes in, 2-0 down. The whole ground is going bananas, apart from obviously the 3,000 odd Gillingham fans. I just thought, oh my God, it's all falling apart. I mean, how amazingly we withstood that. I mean, what was your reaction when we were 2-0 down after 8 minutes?
Well, fair play to Stoke City. They started like trains, and we were, we conceded, and it hurts. But that's where I think you notice the boys and the spirit and the experience that they've got. Because to me, their heads were still saying, okay, we're 2-0 down, but there's a long way to go. We always then, if that had just been the only game, if it had been a one-off game, then maybe their heads would have been a little bit different. But they would have known the situation. Hang on a minute, we've got 90 minutes at Priestfield yet. You've got to handle us when you play us at our place. So we knew we've got to stick at it and carry on. It was the first half of the situation, and I know Ty got a goal back, and when I really see Andy's goal to make it 3-2, what an unbelievable goal. People talk about Andy Hessensader for his commitment and he's running all over the shop and everything else. What a quality goal that was, and you couldn't beat that anywhere. And so it was, and of course you can imagine, I loved it because the Stoke manager was going berserk with the referee. So it's obvious he'd lost the plot a little bit. So I thought, well, I'm just going to stay in control here, and we look forward to seeing you next week. And my very, very good friend is a fellow called John Rudge, who used to be manager of Port Vale. He was at Stoke at that time as the director of football, and so I was looking forward to seeing him at Priestfield the following week, and we did, and we done the right thing. We got the win.
I've got to say that Hessenthaler goal changed the whole vibe. It just devastated Stoke. Their fans were so upset at the end, and the Gillingham fans just felt that that was the turning point. That goal enthused everyone, and yeah, and then obviously back to the bare pit of Priestfield. Stoke, I thought though, lost their heads in the second leg. I mean, they really did. I mean, because we only won in extra time, but the red cards and they lost it. I think in the second half, Stoke, the pressure got to them, and the crowd got to them, and we got to them, and Hessenthaler chasing round got to them, and they lost their heads a little bit, which meant we sort of got to the final in amazing circumstances, but Stoke didn't help themselves. I thought later on in that game.
Well, I think if you talk about Stoke and you talk about Wigan, this is what I'm saying to you. When you've got a good changing room, it's not just a good changing room because the players are good players. They're good players for certain reasons, and they're good players in the squad. There's players that would have played 300 matches and had good experiences and things like that. And there's good players, meaning they don't get red cards silly as well. And that's all the things that add up to make sure that you're a decent outfit. You know, you end the matches with 11 men. You don't end them with 9 men because it hurts you down the road as well. You know, so it's so important. I've always been, when I was starting managing Liverpool, were the best football team at that particular time. They never used to get red cards and yellow cards. They used to handle the situation, and they used to be in control of their jobs. And I've always felt that's the right way. And so, you know, to me, it's not a shock because players knew how strict I was on the discipline. I didn't like silly bookings that means it's going to affect your afternoon.
I've got to say, I remember the playoff week, as I call it, extremely fondly. Obviously, I got to go to the Stoke away game, and yeah, you're right, that Andy Hessenthaler goal. On the way back, we were celebrating like we had won the game because I think we all knew getting back to Priestfield, we were gonna keep them and keep them out and shut them out and definitely win. And then obviously after that week on the Sunday, I played for my dad's football team, end up doing my knee in and end up in a leg brace for 18 months. And I still always remember having to walk up Wembley Way on my crutches to go and watch the final. But we've got to ask you about that final. So, I mean, obviously going in it, you know, it's a shootout. It's two teams, you know, 90, 120 minutes apart from potential glory. Were you going into that thinking anything different tactically? Were you thinking I need to match them up in this area, or were you just literally saying to the boys, go out and do exactly what you've done this whole season?
Well, as I say, the semi-final is the first time that I had to leave Paul Smith out, which was hard for me. But then in the end, I carried it because I liked what I saw with the Hesse and the Junior and the Ty Gooden in midfield. I decided to go that route, and it was also because it was Wembley, and I'm thinking, well, it's a magnificent pitch, big wide pitch. Let's make the pitch as wide as we can when we've got the ball. So I was still confident that we would outpass Wigan. Wigan, to be fair, I think were a little bit favourites on the day because of the team that they had as well. So we knew we had to be at our absolute best. But I was always very confident. I was very confident that we wouldn't concede silly goals, and I was very confident that we could pass the ball around and create chances. So I always knew we had a good chance, and one thing is for sure was the spirit that the boys had, you know, and I knew that they wouldn't go to Wembley and they'd be nervous. They'd handle it, and that's what they would do.
Well, the only time I felt, oh my gosh, was obviously Wigan taking the lead in extra time with the penalty. I mean, at that point, the clock is ticking. But obviously, you brought on some very important substitutes. What was your thinking?
Well, it's handy. It's a handy situation that if you can play a game and you don't need your substitutes, but if you know you've got them on the bench and you know that they're capable of getting a goal, and you do know also, this is the beauty of the game. If Wigan have done it right and Gillingham have done it right that day, by the 70th minute, the players are going to be getting tired, So you know that if you've got some goal scorers that can come off that bench and feel fresh as, they're going to hurt the opposition with a little bit of luck. And so I must admit, of course, when they go 2-1 up with the penalty, I felt as though that there was enough time for us to get back. I knew we had the experience, and I knew we had the attitude to stick together and keep at it, and that's exactly what the boys done.
I think the crunch moment was when we equalised. Such a thumping header from Butler at our end, and it just like suddenly we were then on the up again, and we had 50,000 fans going mad, and you just felt the tide turn then. Obviously, we left it till quite late, but obviously it's earned a moment in our folklore of forever, and we obviously still celebrate St Tomo Day 25 years on, so it's brilliant. So if he hadn't scored, had we prepared for penalties?
Oh, right, okay. We'd spoken about it. I must admit, I am one of these managers that I'm not convinced you can relive it. But I remember we did practice them at Priestfield, and we also practiced the walk from the halfway line. And I don't like players. If I know they're going to take a penalty, I don't like them running. So the ones, whenever you see them on the television now, the ones that run from the halfway line with the ball, I'm more nervous. I like the player to be walking there in control, thinking about where he's going to stick the ball, and go from there. But no, we'd practice it. We would have been ready. But again, on the day, you never know. Because there's times where you might have took a player off that was going to be on the list and so on. But no, we would have been ready.
I will always forever remember the ITV commentary or of a good un. Oh, that is a good un. It's always going to live long in my memory. But like me, that being one of my most memorable moments, I've got to ask, what are some of your most memorable matches or times that you've had at the club? Is there anything that really sticks out to you?
Well, honestly, if I was delighted to get the Gillingham job. I was very pleased Paul Scully chose me in the end, and I was very happy with that, because it was a good job for me, because I knew lots of people, so I was comfortable getting on with it, and I was happy with that. Some of the games that we played, I thought, honestly, I always think of Burnley. Because we were Burnley, a very, very good team at home, and we were absolutely outstanding that day. But I can remember lots of the games where the togetherness of the group meant that we there was times I probably didn't have to say anything, because they just got on with it. There was enough experience on the pitch to handle the situation, and we were. But the boys, even on bad days, they would still be there on a Monday morning, getting on with the work for the next game, and that was how they used to recover and get on with it. And they were a very, very good group to take. You didn't mind waking up in the mornings and getting in your car and go and see the boys for training, because not only you get something out of it and you're making the team better, hopefully, but you're enjoying it because they're a good group and a good company.
I mean, I was then going to ask about the community and fan base of Gillingham Football Club. I mean, how did they interact with you when you were at the club? I mean, obviously, I know now, obviously, you if you come down to the club, I'm sure everyone's coming over and greeting you. But did you find they really welcomed you in when you first joined?
Yeah, I must admit, I was, it's when people tell me about the Blackpool situation as well, that, that was the day that they welcomed me more, which to be fair, I probably was a touch disappointed with that, because to me, I thought, well, I'm what I am anyway, and I can assure them, for me to take the job on at Gillingham, I'm 100% committed to try and make it right. Simple as that. And so I wanted to, I suppose, win them over straight away. And but no, I think everybody had some great days in that season. To cap it all with some nice cup runs, where we also played teams at home in the cup runs. I think was good as well. So to me, I think it was a very, I know I only had the one season, but it was a very enjoyable one season. Lots of good games where people can, be very, very happy to be involved with. And so no, I think that the fans, to me, always treated me with the right respect and all that. So I've got no problem. I felt as though, as you say, whenever I go back now, you'll always see a supporter. You'll always see a supporter that enjoyed that year. It's quite funny. I've been back to some of my football clubs recently, and some of the stories you hear that I had one gentleman said to me that his wife left him, and he said to me that if you knew how much it meant to me to have match days to come to watch the team play. And it was amazing. I think you wouldn't give it a thought, but in the end, I made his day every other Saturday because he was really upset that unfortunately his wife had no longer in the same house as him, but it meant he had something to do and it give him an interest. So at least I've done something right.
So what was the situation that led to you then going to Leicester? And do you think you were treated fairly there by the fans and the media? Because there were things like you signed Akinbaye, and I just felt like some people, because you'd only been Gillingham manager, I thought you weren't treated fairly there from an outside. From outside,
I think again, following Leicester, following Martin O'Neill at Leicester City is a very difficult job. Following Tony Pulis is hard enough. Well, what Martin O'Neill done at Leicester is incredible. So anything I'd done, unless we won 5-0, it was wrong. So that's what it was. But the situation, if I can just explain with the Gillingham one, is that first of all, there was talk about me having a contract with Gillingham, which I all agreed and everything, but it was never signed. It was never put in front of me for me to sign it. So, and maybe that might have been for the first 5 matches because we didn't do so well. I don't know, but it was never put in front of me. So in the end, when Leicester City come along, I didn't have to worry about breaking a contract because it was never put in front of me. So I just got on with it. It wasn't put in front of me, so I just carried on doing the work I was doing anyway. Wouldn't have made no difference to me. It wouldn't have meant I'd have worked any harder because I was working, I think, hard as I possibly could. So that's one of the reasons I was a free agent and I could have gone to Leicester. Leicester's situation was a great start. Ended up being a tough job, but still I'm delighted that I worked in the Premier Division with them. And it is a lovely area and a lovely club. And I hope they bounce back and get back in the Premier League next year.
I also have to ask you about your second spell as Gillingham manager, because obviously that didn't quite go as smoothly, but then you were inheriting a very, very different team and a club in a different place, really, compared with 2000. So what was your take on your period where you had different players to deal with and a club that was maybe not on the up anymore? No.
I'll be honest with you. I actually was quite pleased the way it went, in the respect that when I walked through in the building for the second time, I think the team was second from bottom, something like that. Something. We're talking about when I took over from Martin, yes.
Yeah.
and then from when, so then straight away, or not straight away, but quite quickly, we pushed up the league and got a little bit safer, because it was a real sticky situation at that particular time. And I felt as though that all of a sudden I showed to people that I can all of a sudden look after a team that's lower in the table to make us get enough points to make sure that we stay up. And I think I learned a lot from that period on how to make us be a team that can just win 1-0. Because we didn't have the players there to go and win 5-0. We had to do it a different way. We had to get the points from somewhere and somehow. And I felt as though that happened, and I just wanted a little bit more help. And that's where I had a little bit of a fallout with Paul, which is history now. We shake hands and we're as good as gold. We're good friends. But at that time I wanted extra help. I felt as though the team needed some players to. Otherwise, it would have been a problem. But in the end, I wasn't there to finish it off.
I think one of the best moments was when we beat Wolves 1-0 with a last-minute Cody McDonald goal live on Sky.
Yeah.
That was a fantastic, because that was backs against the wall. The whole team putting us, as you say, getting a 1-0 win. They were not going to beat Wolves 3-0. And Wolves are hot favourites, obviously. But that was, I thought, that epitomised that turnaround.
Yeah, no, I think, as I say, I think that's where supporters have got to realise that, if you play against a team, especially in the same division, but they're favourites and you're down below, you've got to do things differently. You can't be everybody goes attacking. Everybody says go and attack, but you can't do that because they'll just pick you off. And and I think that's what we had to do in the end with Gillingham. And so we had to be a team that's grafting together, without a doubt, work exceptionally hard for each other, play like 1.5 men every time we turn up, and that's what we had to do. And they were a good bunch, and it was very different the second time. I probably was more surprised maybe of the attitude towards me the second time I was there than the first time. I think that maybe I could sense that people weren't accepting me as much, which I was probably a little bit surprised about. But that's how it goes. That's what you can't win them all.
No, you can't. I think sometimes it was just frustration with the direction of travel of the whole club. But also, I think people were, some people were unrealistic in terms of as the style of play and being a little bit more expansive or attacking. And I think that so people can get frustrated with that if it doesn't work, if you see what I mean. So I do feel that you got. I thought you'd built up a bigger well of support from your previous time at the club to earn a little bit more respect there from some of our fans. But that's done. It's done now.
Never mind.
I apologise.
We're all different. That's the beauty of football. We're all different. We've all got our own opinions, and that's why it's so big, because there's so many programs about it, because there's so many different ideas around.
There are. Peter, whilst I've got you on, we've got to ask you about obviously the current Gillingham team, and let's ask about the current Gillingham manager, Gareth Ainsworth. I don't know how well you know him, if you know him at all, but what advice would you give him to, I'm sure you're not going to give him any coaching advice, but especially for connecting with the Gillingham fan base. Obviously, we're known as the home of the shouting men. We always back our boys. So if you give Ainsworth any piece of advice for this season, what would it be?
Well, for a start, I think it's a really good choice. Really good choice. Him and his assistant, Richard Dobson, I know very well. When I was the under-21 manager with England, I used to go to different places to take certain clubs training. And John Rudge, who was my friend I mentioned earlier, he was manager of Port Vale, and Gareth played for him. So I took Gareth training many, many moons ago, and have half kept in touch ever since. We don't ring each other, nothing like that. But if we see each other, we'll have a quick chat with each other because we know each other. I think he's a good choice. And the reason I'm saying he's a good choice, I think he knows how to get on well with the supporters as well. I think his style, the supporters will like. And he showed what a great job he done at Wycombe. And so I think he's a good choice, because I think the Gillingham situation is a little bit like the Wycombe one, and so I think he's an upfront. He'll be there on the touchline. The players, I think, will enjoy playing for him. So I really do think it's a good choice, and I think he knows the level, he knows the players. His assistant knows the players as well, and his assistant's a very organised coach. So that'll be hard to play against. And so no, honestly, Gareth has just got to be himself, and he will be. The supporters will like him. I've got no doubt about that. And I think, tell me if I'm wrong, I think the results did pick up slightly end of last season, so I could see it starting to work.
So all right then, let me put you on the spot. Let me ask you, where do you think they're going to finish this year? And if you don't say first, I'm going to be heartbroken.
The only trouble is with you putting me on the spot, I've got an iPad that I can just turn off, so you can't do nothing about that. So, but no, I think you're going to have I bet you any money you like, you have a good start. I can see you having a real good positive start. I went back to the club recently, and even being welcomed at the door by the fella on the security side of it, he was saying what a different club it is now, and hopefully the new owner, and it's all working and all the things like that. I think that's what players need. I think the players need to know that the manager's in place, the assistant's in place, that everything's booked and everything's going to be right for preparation. And whenever I go for interviews, and not that I go for them anymore, but I used to say to the chairman and the owners of the football club, never give a player an excuse. Make sure it's the right training kit, it's the right training ground, it's the right equipment. You've got to make sure everything's right. I think that would be the case for Gillingham this year. So I don't gamble, but if I did gamble, I'd say that I bet you have a good start. Are you now going to say that?
Let's hope it is a great start, and obviously Tuesday. No, I'm going to let you off. You did give me a lovely bit of advice when I was on crutches all those years ago. So I'm going to let you off. But Peter, honestly, thank you so much for coming on and being our first guest on Echoes of Priestfield. It's been absolutely wonderful having you on. Thank you so much. Guys, you have been watching the very first episode of Echoes of Priestfield from the Shouting Men podcast. Thank you so much for watching, and as always, up the Gills.
I wonder, should I go or should I stay? The game was over, no more time to play. I gazed around and saw no one had gone. The Gills were still singing their song.